All right, folks, we're going to call this public hearing to order for September 24th, 2019, dealing with the superintendent's recommended redistricting plan. As we start, I'm going to turn over for a brief presentation by Mr. Lebo, the Chief Operating Officer.
Good evening. The Board of Education seeks public comment on the superintendent's recommended attendance area for Linganore, Oakdale, and Urbana redistricting study. The recommendation was presented to the Board of Education at their September 12th regular meeting. Staff was charged by the Board of Education in November of 2018 to conduct a redistricting study to establish attendance areas for two new elementary schools, Sugarloaf and Blue Heron, and to balance enrollment in the study area. There are 10 elementary, 5 middle, and 3 high schools included in this redistricting study area. Guidance throughout the project is provided by Board of Education Policy 200, School Attendance Areas and Redistricting, and FCPS Regulation 100-2, Redistricting. Goals, as outlined in the Board of Education Strategic Plan, also served as direction to staff with regards to community engagement and the preparation of the recommendation. In the development of this recommendation, staff held 3 sets of public meetings to discuss the project and to gather feedback from the community. The first round of public meetings was held in January of 2019 to introduce the study, scope of work, methodology, and schedule. The second round of meetings were held in March, and staff presented several concepts for discussion and feedback. The third round of meetings were held in June 2019 at the 3 high schools in the redistricting study area. Those who attended the meetings or watched later on the website heard a presentation of 2 options that staff were considering. Attendees were asked to provide feedback about what they liked and disliked about each option. The community was also asked to consider the relative importance of the factors included in Board Policy 200 as they provided feedback about the study. The superintendent's recommendation is the next step in the redistricting study process and is a further refinement of the options presented in June. This is the final public hearing that the Board of Education will hold. They will discuss the redistricting at their regular September 25th Board of Education meeting tomorrow evening and are scheduled to make a decision on the redistricting boundaries on October the 16th. The new attendance areas will be implemented over 2 years, the fall of 2020 and the fall of 2021, to align with the opening of Sugarloaf and Blue Heron elementary schools. Maps and detailed information continue to be on the FCPS website.
Thank you, Mr. Lebo. And I just wanted to add a few comments before we get started. This process, as Mr. Lebo outlined, has been going on for quite some time. I will note that a number of other school districts do simply put a plan out there and take it right to the board for a vote. We've tried to do that differently by taking as much community input in this process as possible. We do realize in the end, no matter what decision we make, unfortunately, there probably will be people that may not be happy with it. That being said, these 3 hearings that we've had, this being the 3rd one, is to hear from the public about potential changes that we may make. As Mr. Lebo stated, tomorrow night at our meeting, we will ask staff questions, and the majority of those will be driven by comments that we've heard at these public hearings and by emails that we've received and by people that have contacted us directly. This evening, as you speak, you have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll ask that when the buzzer goes off, you complete that sentence. We have so far about 30-some folks signed up, and we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to speak. If you can't complete your thoughts, or if tomorrow morning you think, oh, I wish I would have added that to it, feel free to email those to us, and we make sure we're receiving all those emails and sharing them with the entire board. So if you have additional information that you would like to share, feel free to do that as well. So with that, we will start with our first speaker. I will say the microphones are set for fairly tall folks. There's an adjustment in the middle. If you unscrew it, you can take it up or down. I know we have a few students that want to speak, so you can adjust the mic to your height. The first up this evening is Nicole Jackson. And if Samira James could be ready to go second, and then Kevin Irvingham.
Hi, you guys.
Good evening.
I'm Nicole Jackson. I'm a mom to 3 kids in the Frederick County Public Schools. One of them attend Urbana High School, which is why I'm here. I do not agree with the recommendations to move Lansdale from Urbana High School to Linganore High School. The long distance, for one. I do not like that our kids will have to travel over 7 miles to Linganore High School as opposed to only 4 miles to Urbana High School. It makes no sense considering one of the issues you guys are supposed to look at is the amount of time a child commutes to and from school. And I think distance to school is an important criteria for attendance. And we have a lot of kids involved in school sports, and because of that, this will most likely be a huge inconvenience on us parents having to travel so far to pick up our kids. And a lot of parents come right off of 270 and they pick up their kids from Urbana High School, and then they just swing on back home. But Urbana High School offers many programs my child and other children in Lansdale is involved in that Linganore High School does not offer. Black Student Association, Heritage Club, and the International Baccalaureate Program. Removing our kids from Lansdale mean removing those kids from those programs as well. And we love Urbana High School, and we want our children and the kids who are on their way to attend Urbana High School to go to that school. So we are here with one common goal to let you know that we want to stay at Urbana High School. And I'm asking the people of Lansdale that are here, and if you agree, please stand. We want to keep Urbana High School as our school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Samira James. And forgive me if I mispronounce your name, if you could re-announce it. I did fail to say, this is not shown live, but it is being taped, and so other folks that want to watch it later on our website can do that.
My name's Samira James, and I'm a junior at Urbana High. And being a student at Urbana High has affected my life, very drastically. And the student body there is very welcome. They always are there helping students, the new freshmen coming in. We're always we're one. And in comparison to Linganore, in my opinion, it's the opposite. Going there makes it uncomfortable. Based on my experiences as a track athlete, they weren't as welcoming and made it feel uncomfortable being there. And being in that situation, it's not the best feeling. And the faculty at Urbana teaches us to welcome others no matter what. And that's something I want my siblings to experience, and having them be able to feel like they can go to a guidance counselor if they aren't feeling good, or if there's something going on, they're being messed with, they can go to the guidance counselor or an AP and feel welcome and feel like they can trust them and put their trust in them and talk to them whenever it's needed. And that's something I want my little sister and my brother to go through. But I don't think they'd get the same treatment at Urbana, at Linganore, as they would at Urbana. And that's how I'd like to finish my high school career.
Thank you. And I got to ask younger sister, do you agree?
Do you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Kevin Irvingham, then Aaron Jackson, then Patrick Morgan.
Hey, good evening, guys.
Good evening.
I'm Dr. Kevin Everingham. I'm a resident of the Lansdale community in Monrovia. I have serious concerns about the redistricting from both a system and a personal level. As a bottom line up front, I believe the BOE should stop all redistricting efforts which do not have an actual reduction in overcrowding at schools, and instead use the data to justify new schools. Barring that, the BOE should not move Lansdale, which is zone PB 57, out of Urbana High School, as it goes against SCPS policy 200.2 on redistricting, and you all have an email from me detailing exactly why. So I'm going to use the full 3 minutes here. From a system perspective, I reviewed all county documents on redistricting, FCPS policy, and the 10-year master plan, as well as state documents on school utilization standards, which is supposed to be 90%. The changes proposed by the Board of Education do not address the core reason for redistricting, which is overcrowding. No BOE plan reduces overcrowding. No BOE plan proposes a new high school in the next 10 years. though there'll be 1,200 more students than there are seats in 10 years, per the BOE's own documents. Therefore, no BOE plan addresses the regional overcrowding in this part of the county, considering projected student change in the next 10 years. And so I have a serious question for you guys to think about tomorrow. Why are you guys redistricting? What is the impact of that? Aren't there better options? Not just for our community, but for the entire county. From a personal level, Lansdale is currently matrixed to GVES, to Green Valley Elementary School. Many people know my concerns with Green Valley, but I'm not going to talk about it today. Windsor Knolls, and Urbana High School. The BOE proposal moves all of Lansdale to Linganore High School. Why? Per Frederick County Public School System Policy 200.2 on redistricting, this goes against the criteria, including longer distance, and I'm sure people after me will discuss all the many reasons why. The actual impact on Urbana High School is 3%. So if you keep us at Urbana, it is a 3% increase. If you take us out, it's a 3% decrease. Per your numbers, it's 52 students. I'm sure that changes over time as the community grows, but we can't see those numbers from your documents. On the elementary side, actually I did talk about it. On the elementary side of the house, Green Valley remains overcrowded and extremely outdated. At present, no BOE plan exists to address overcrowding or renovations in the next 10 years. Why? While I hope positive answers are forthcoming, I urge the board and attendees here today to stop all redistricting efforts and focus on the regional system issues of not enough schools. Use the redistricting data that you have to demonstrate the need for more schools to the board, to the county, or the state. If elected officials refuse to address this obvious issue per their own BOE numbers, vote them out of office. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Jackson.
Hi, my name is Aaron Jackson. I got 3 children in the Frederick County Public School. My daughter's in high school. I got a son that's in middle school, and I got a youngest daughter that's in elementary school. And one thing I'm very concerned about is that, you know, my kids' experience since coming to Frederick County has been very good. All 3 of my kids have excelled beyond my wildest dreams since being here. But my youngest son is autistic. And he, you know, we came from a school in Virginia, and in that school, the whole time he was there, he never really interacted with the other kids or played with them. And, you know, we just thought, okay, you know, he's autistic, we're working with him. But we came over here and he started at Green Valley, and because of the culture, and this is, you know, I'm going to describe this later, you know, he actually started interacting with other kids, and this is followed through to Windsor Knolls. Culture is a very important thing. He does it through sports. And so my concern is that, you know, when he makes it to Linganore High, which this will be if you guys make this recommendation, which will be very soon, he won't be able to, to interact in any extracurricular sports because it's just too far. You know, I work in D.C., my wife's a stay-at-home mom. There's no way she can juggle him and the other kids and, you know, go all the way through the major highways and everything, making it to Linganore. You know, I took the drive myself, and it's just undoable for her to handle all of that. So I'm looking at my son who's made these leaps and bounds, and I'm really worried what's going to happen when he gets to the high school level. He never interacted with other kids at playtime at all until he got to Frederick County. So I give you guys kudos for that. You've done some good things, but I think to take these kids, these 52 kids that are in Lansdale, and then shuffle them off 7 miles away and say that's the way to make the spreadsheet work, not realizing that these kids or most of them are involved in extracurricular activities, and just take the drive yourself and you'll see it's completely, I mean, it's basically double the miles, but when you look at the traffic lights, all of the ways that you can't turn left, all the roads you got to go down, it turns into a daunting task to make that drive, especially, we start the winter time and it starts getting darker earlier. So what I really, think you guys should do is to not make this recommendation tomorrow, to look at all the ramifications, to look at the cultural differences too, besides just the traveling distance, because the last thing I want to finish on is, and I talked with Mr. LeBeau a while back, he probably doesn't remember me, but we talked on the phone, and he said that you guys were going to start a diversity council. You did that. So my ask is that you stop this study, get a separate study from the diversity council that you guys started large in part because of problems you got at Linganore, and get the results from that study, and then come back to this.
Thank you. Patrick Morgan, then Connor Tweedow.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I thought I could speak for a second week in a row and no one would notice, and the second I walked in the door, the security gentleman looked at me and said, "Oh, you're back again, huh?" It's like, oh, I said it's the beard, so we'll see. Thank you for your time. We appreciate the public comment. My request would be to take Planning Block 177 and please combine it with Planning Block 183. Again, Planning Block 177 should be combined with Planning Block 183. Under the recommended plan currently, there are 6 students leaving Linganore High School to go to Oakdale, and there are 4 students from Oakdale leaving to go to Linganore. Think about the logic of that. We're sending 4 from Linganore to Oakdale, Oakdale sending Linganore 4. These are students that are not part of a big neighborhood. They are little side streets that are easy to overlook, understandably, in such a massive task that you're undertaking. And you're probably not going to hear a lot from the people that live there because it is such a small number. Those students matter. It's unnecessary. At the high school level, this is more of an issue with easing overcrowding at Urbana from what I've seen. This is not a Linganore Oakdale issue at the moment, at the high school level. When students move in larger numbers, at least they have familiar faces. I worry the 6 students that I know from Linganore who are being asked to move, they're going there in isolation. They don't know anyone, and they're already established at Linganore. The original plan that was in place by the Objective Committee had this recommendation. I would like to know the logic to that, why that was suddenly added. I know we can't have responses now. Planning Block 177 is our street, which is 7 homes that were built, or 12 homes, excuse me, that were built in the 1970s. It is farmland behind us, and those farmers have said they are not selling, and it is across the street on Gas House Pike to some of that new development that right now it's all dirt. There are not homes. There are some that are built and being built. What 177 encompasses right now is just flat dirt. It seems like Gas House Pike was a natural dividing line for over 50 years now, and suddenly the expansion of Lake Linganore has reached across the street and grabbed our 12 homes and pulled them in. The bus will literally drive by my children, the Linganore bus. They will be out there waiting to go to a school that they've been forced to go to, and literally because of the road beside us, which is Dance Hall Road, and the road up the street behind us, McKeag, they are slated to go to Linganore. So my children will stand at the bus stop knowing that they're being forced to go to a school that they don't wish to currently go to because they're happy where they are. The Linganore bus will drive by them every day, and that really breaks my heart. You cannot put those kids in Linganore. You cannot do that essentially and not have the bus go by. The bus is there. This isn't some out-of-the-way place. So again, the closing point with that, I would again like to ask that Block 177 is combined with 183. Failing that, I think all current high school students should be granted out-of-district waiver if that would be necessary. Okay? Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up is Connor, then Elena Schneider.
Good evening. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to speak tonight. I'm going to be talking, I brought a map. You're in trouble. I'm going to be speaking tonight about, I live here in this bubble of orange and the sea of green, as we're calling it. And some of my friends are here with friends and neighbors, including my awesome young friend Bennett, who's going to talk about how this is going to affect them personally. But really the point I wanted to make is, looking at this map, we currently are in the green. We go to Green Valley and Windsor Knolls, and these are all small roads. They're side streets. They're cul-de-sacs. We walk through the woods and sell Girl Scout cookies to one another. We ride bikes. I recognize people by their dogs and their strollers. I-70 runs right through here. It's a really natural dividing line in the county. And we're now going north of I-70, which we can't walk across to sell Girl Scout cookies to go to school. And so basically this is dividing our community. It's not just about the schools. I think schools are a central part of a community. And the way that our neighborhood has been sort of randomly removed from our community and placed in, not that there's anything wrong with these folks up here, but this is this is who we walk with and shop with and hang out with in a neighborhood sense. And so I would hope that would be part of the greater decision is what makes sense for a neighborhood, not just numbers to go to this school or numbers to go to that school. And it sounds like there are similar concerns. So I hope that comes into the thinking as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Elena, and then Julie Blum, and then Bennett Blum.
Hi,
Good
my
evening.
name is Elena Schneider, and I live in Planning Block 45. I have 2 children whose elementary and middle school locations will be affected if the county chooses to accept the superintendent's recently proposed plan. I would like to take a couple of minutes to express my specific concerns with this plan and the fact that it has created a unique and illogical feeder pattern for my children. First and foremost, the current proposal isolates our neighborhood from our community. We are the yellow island in the sea of green. This plan takes our children away from the school they've been attending since kindergarten and friends they've known since preschool. The suggested elementary and middle schools are also farther away from my home mileage-wise. Secondly, the proposed plan goes against the original and second consultant's recommendation for our neighborhood's elementary and middle school. There already seems to be issues with the lines that actually divided shared driveways, and there are current bus stops that next year we'll have 2 different elementary school and 2 different middle school buses picking up and dropping off. This is not economical nor safe. My next concern is that Twin Ridge, which is where my kids will be transferring, has a split feeder pattern where the majority of students will go to Windsor Knolls, which is our former middle school. However, my children will once again be separated and sent to another middle school, leaving newly made friends behind. It would make more sense to send our students to Kemptown, a school that is closer and would have the same middle school feeder pattern for the whole school. This is less a transition for the students. In a time when schools are focusing on social emotional health for our students, isolating neighborhoods from their communities and making it so that certain neighborhoods have unique feeder patterns creates difficult transitions and makes the students feel left out or ostracized, especially in middle school. I understand when looking at a solution to the overcrowded schools, the board's goal is to have the least amount of people affected. But these are not just numbers, they are children, and there has to be some thought about how to keep communities together. The area is changing and new schools are on the horizon. As I talk to my neighbors, there seems to be a history of swapping Planning Block 45 between the neighborhood schools. Each time FCPS redistricts, there's some change in our elementary, middle, or high school. Our planning block seems to be an easy fix for the county, and it has to stop. Finally, in my son's IEP, the state asks the question if the student is in the home school and if they are receiving services at the closest available school. The county might arbitrarily change my child's home school to Twin Ridge, but the fact remains it will not be the closest where he is thriving academically and socially. Why put these new obstacles in front of him? Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julie Bloom. We know this has been a long process for all of you. We appreciate the opportunity to comment. My neighborhood, the Lee Hill neighborhood in Planning Block 187, which my neighbors just spoke about, found out at this last final level of proposals for the first time since the redistricting talks began that our neighborhood was slated to be redistricted. We all responded to the surveys, we've attended meetings, we've read the materials, but between June, when option A or B were presented, those did not include changes to our planning block. In fact, the consultant, Cropper GIS, did not include our neighborhood at all as slated to be redistricted. And so the proposal that is set forth by the superintendent kind of took us by surprise, seeing that we were now scheduled to be redistricted. We also don't think it adheres to the FCPS policy 200.2. So the way this neighborhood, as my friend Connor already talked about, in Orange, which is where we live, is isolated from the rest of the community who will attend Green Valley and Windsor Knolls. Our small neighborhood here, south of 70, would attend Twin Ridge and Newmarket Middle School. So it doesn't make a lot of sense when we're looking at geographic boundaries such as Interstate 70 And so based on this proposed middle school map, there are these isolated islands, one in our community and then another one in that New Market community. So it would make sense to me geographically to flip-flop those two. So as the proposal stands now, the superintendent's proposal, it would lead to some kids attending schools knowing really only the few people that they know in this neighborhood. They would have to leave behind like 90% of their friends that they've gone to school with since kindergarten. Then they would go to a different middle school as well, then rejoin the friends that they made in elementary school when they go to Linganore. So our request in this community, and we've actually circulated a petition starting last week. We have 177 signatures. So we're requesting that that you look at the boundary of Interstate 70, use it as a natural boundary. The planning block south should go to schools south of Interstate 70. The planning blocks north should go to schools north of Interstate 70, and this would keep the communities together. Thank you.
Thank you. Bennett?
And Mrs. Bennett.
If you do it in the center down on the stand, you can lower.
that?
You got it? Good?
That's fine.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Bennett Bloom. I am in 4th grade at Green Valley Elementary School. I've been going to my school since kindergarten, and I have a lot of friends there, like JJ, Caleb, Suhail, TJ, Violin, and Danny, and lots more. A lot of these friends were on the Destination Imagination team with me last year. We worked on a project and had a lot of fun doing all the engineering, science, and math. We even made it to the state finals. The other day, I heard that some neighborhoods are getting districted, including the one I live in planning block 187. When my mom asked me how I felt about that, I told her that I didn't want that to happen because it would separate me from my friends. It would make me sad to be apart from my friends because friends are a very good thing to have. Please consider not sending my small neighborhood to a new school and keeping me with my friends I have known since kindergarten. With my team of friends, I hope to keep going, keep persevering in Destination Imagination, and keep being a good friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bennett, you did a great job. Next up is Paul Scarzello, then Richard Malt.
Hi, my name is Paul Scarzello. I live on Gas House Pike on the east side from Boyers Mill Road to Linganore Creek. So the opposite side of Patrick. We're in the Oakdale feeder pattern right now. And one of the things I want to say is I understand that redistricting needs to happen, and we're fine with that, my wife and I. The part where we have trouble is in all the proposals, if we were redistricted, my kids would be moved with other kids. We don't live in a subdivision. My kids don't go outside and play or anything like that. But next year, my daughter will be the only kid from Deer Crossing Elementary School to go to New Market Middle. And the year following, my son will be the only one that transfers. So, it seems like a simple solution from what Patrick noted would be take those kids on the west side of Boyers Mill Road on Gas House Pike and let them continue going to Linganore, and let the kids on the Gas House Pike side that I'm on continue going to Oakdale. Understanding there is a new subdivision, let the new subdivision go to Linganore within that feeder pattern. If nothing else, it's certainly not in the best interest of that student to be the only one to transfer. I don't know, I think we're the only ones that it impacts like this. So, and if nothing else, give us the opportunity to find our own transportation. Because I don't know if any of you have switched middle schools, but I did. It's not a fun experience. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mott, and then Rachel Engler.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I speak in favor of the superintendent's proposal and in response to the comments and petitions posted in online social media groups reacting to the proposal involving Twin Ridge Elementary and its feeder patterns to Windsor Knolls or Newmarket Middle. Not all people from communities are members of these groups, so I want to acknowledge that those speaking in opposition to the superintendent's recommendations may not represent a majority, or at least there is no way to know that. Even if hundreds of people sign a petition, that is not a full representation of the thousands of students and parents for whom the changes suggested would involve, many of whom might be content and thus haven't attended hearings or vocalized any concerns. In order to know people's feelings for certain, stakeholders from all schools affected would need to be officially notified and surveyed at this late date. The models in March and June proposed two options, one of which did have Twin Ridge Elementary split, but neither involved moving the Twin Ridge neighborhood specifically. Opponents to the superintendent's recommendation are now all of a sudden offering the Twin Ridge neighborhood as a bartering chip. This offering comes from planning blocks that claim the superintendent's proposal was unfair at this late juncture because it did not reflect previous models, but they have suggested a solution at an even later juncture to affect the Twin Ridge neighborhood in ways that also reflect neither option. This is hypocritical, and the numbers don't support it. The petition's suggestion to swap adjacent planning blocks with the Twin Ridge neighborhood is not an even one. It involves 67 to 179 children, respectively, a difference of 112 students. The other idea to move all of Twin Ridge Elementary to Newmarket will eventually add an additional 376 students based on current student count. Both suggestions put Newmarket well above capacity, out of alignment with every other middle school subject to redistricting, and drain its resources. Meanwhile, Windsor Knolls would be underutilized. Going back to the original concepts from the winter to support moving all of Twin Ridge Elementary to Newmarket should no longer be cited as a relevant possibility. It was scrapped early on because the projected numbers were inaccurate. As an educator, I am confident you took into account more than just a simple balance of overall student populations, but a balance of students on free and reduced meals and a balance of resources available to those with special needs. The need to balance such numbers may be overlooked by those who don't fall into these populations. My wife and I have a combined 33 years teaching in public schools. We understand the hard decisions that need to be made when making changes to promote student equity. As parents, we prioritize equitable educational resources and environments, even if it will involve some social adjustment down the line for our own children. Please don't upend one neighborhood at this late stage to appease another when not based in sound educational numbers and data. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Engler, then Isabella Engler.
Good evening, members of the board, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us this evening. My name is Rachel Engler. My daughter currently attends Twin Ridge Elementary School. Although she is out of district by where we live at, she should be going to Green Valley. Next year, we didn't worry about that. We figured we were heading to Windsor Knolls with all of her friends, but we happen to be that small planning block that has been segmented out and redistricted over to Newmarket Middle School. Each year, Twin Ridge, probably like most elementary schools, at the end of the year, they do a field trip to the new middle school for the 5th grade class to allow them to see the school and get acquainted with it. If our school is split, will the students that are being sent to Newmarket Middle also have the same opportunity? Or will they get forgotten about since they are such a small minority? I believe from Twin Ridge, it is approximately 10 to 13 students out of the current 71 fifth graders that will end up at Newmarket. If you haven't considered this, maybe you should be before making a final decision. Our neighborhood is a well-established neighborhood. We are not going to grow. The only land left around us was purchased by FC Frederick and is going to be made into soccer fields. You haven't heard us be vocal previously because we were never affected. But here at the end, at the 11th hour, we were changed. We went from going to Windsor Knolls to being shifted to Newmarket Middle. I believe this to be very unfair, whereas all the other communities and the surrounding neighborhoods have had the full year to voice their opinions and to weigh in on the options. We weren't given that. We were given the last week and a half to basically come and fight for what we wanted. As we previously spoke about, and you've heard it from our neighbors, part of the recommendation splits a court directly in half. 2 houses going to Green Valley and Windsor Knolls, and the other 2 houses in the same court going to Newmarket and Twin Ridge. That is neither efficient nor is it coherent in any way, shape, or form. You're going to have 4 buses attending to the same small court. This proves to me that this recommendation was made swiftly and not very well thought out, considering with that. You're taking away the support that we have to lend a helping hand to our neighbors. As you've heard from some of our neighbors, we do support each other. Although my daughter is out of district, we know all of our neighbors, and we're there for each other. Studies show that children that are forced to move to a new school tend to struggle more, not just academically, but socially. No longer joining the band or playing sports as they feel isolated and alone. Yes, they will make new friends. There's no question. But what happens when they don't? What's the repercussions to that? This decision should not be just about the numbers. These are our children, and we've entrusted you and feel like this plan fails them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Isabella? And she has accompaniment tonight with her bodyguards.
Hi, you know me. I'm Isabella Engler from Twin Ridge Elementary School, and these are 2 of my best friends, Vaughn and Chase. I know this is my last chance to try to change your minds about the recommended redistricting given by Dr. Albin and her team. I live in that small section off of Buffalo's Road that is being sent off to Newmarket Middle School instead of Windsor Knolls. Tonight, I'm not just speaking for me, but for several of my friends who have prior commitments and can't be here. First, I want to stress my love, of course, and make you remember that Newmarket Middle does not have a chorus program, either during school or after school. My current choir teacher, Mrs. Gerhardt, who, by the way, is the best teacher ever, donates her own personal time to ensure the kids still have an opportunity to follow their dreams and passion by creating a choir at Windsor Knolls after school. She is my inspiration, and I know that I'll feel safe with her. Second, my friend Addison, who couldn't be here tonight, asked me to let you know how she feels. She also is like me, but she is going to Windsor Knolls, while all of her friends are going to Newmarket Middle. For her, many of the kids she doesn't get along with will also be going to Windsor Knolls, and she will not have any friends there to lean on while making the tough transition to middle school. I know you're thinking that we will make new friends and this shouldn't be that big of a deal, but to us, it's all we can think about. We should be enjoying her final year of elementary school and looking forward to her next year. But because of the redistricting, none of us are happy and excited to leave, knowing that we will be split apart next year. Lastly, I'm asking you to please look at the boundaries set forth in this plan and realize that it's not what's best for us. That's what's best for us. Sorry. As students, that you are here grow and mold into young adults. Since we are using the voices you have taught us to use and are begging you to please keep us together. Thank you again for your time and listening to us. I know you have a tough decision to make, but please take the time to consider the kids, not just what the numbers look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. You did an outstanding job. Vaughn and Chase, do you agree with Isabella? Do you guys agree with her? Good. Next up is Angie Williams, and then Michelle Dewar-Chavez.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Angie Williams. I'm mom to 2 fifth graders at Twin Ridge Elementary that are slated to go to Windsor Knolls Middle. And I've been engaged throughout this process and provided feedback throughout, so just thank you for allowing parents that opportunity to give our comments. I was very disappointed when Concept 1 from March was taken off the table, as it had allowed most of Twin Ridge to shift to Newmarket Middle. This option allowed nearly all of our very stable and well-established neighborhoods to remain together, while getting a clear benefit of attending a school geographically closer for most of us. Newmarket Middle is 6.9 miles from my house in Twin Ridge, yet Windsor Knolls is 9.2 miles away. Now the Twin Ridge Elementary community is being split up considerably in the recommended proposal. And while I strongly feel Newmarket Middle is the better option for our students based on geography, I'm more concerned, like other parents, that the students will be split in their middle school years. And for that reason, I'd ask you to reconsider this plan to allow all of Twin Ridge students to attend Windsor Knolls together. Your recommendation indicates that Windsor Knolls is about 70% capacity, or will be in the plan. So it seems like there would be capacity to have them all together. Right now, there'd be 65% of Twin Ridge going to Windsor Knolls, 35% to Newmarket. I know my kids will get an equally strong education at either middle school, and I'm happy that the feeder will remain at Linganore. That's why we moved to Twin Ridge. But it's disappointing that our school, where there is little growth as compared to other areas in this redistricting plan, is the one that's going to be split. It is growth in other areas that's driving this. Other than Blue Heron Elementary School, we're the only split feeder from an elementary to middle school in this study. Again, the growth is elsewhere. We're truly a community on the east side of the county, and continuing to build relationships, made even at the elementary and middle school years, really helps a rural community like ours grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Hi, my name is Michelle Duray-Chavis, and I am from the Lansdale community. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I appreciate hearing everyone's opinion from other neighborhoods as well. It is a hard study that you guys are in front of. There's a lot of people affected. I'm speaking primarily regarding my concern of the lack of diversity in the community. I relocated from Montgomery County, where we were in a diverse community, and I felt that I was making the right decision in choosing Lansdale. I felt that going to a school where 37% of the students are of minority, as it is in Urbana, matches our community. I mean, I think it's important that our kids are in the same type of community in their home as they are in their school. I also think that with Linganore only being at 13%, it makes a difference. My daughter was at Windsor Knolls for just for the 1 year, and it impacted her. I mean, she honestly did not feel as welcomed in that community, and it bothers me as a parent. We never want to see our children feeling uncomfortable. And I felt it was just a year that we would have to deal with it, and that she would be in Urbana soon. She's been in Urbana now for 2 weeks. She's made more relationships in the 2 weeks than she did in the 1 year over at Linganore. Over at Windsor Knolls. So I'm concerned with that. Green Valley, where my other daughter goes, is about 30% diversity, which is more in line with Urbana. My main thing is that they're in the same type of situation so that they feel comfortable. That's my primary concern. My other concern is the distance. I mean, I work over in at Searsville Mansion, so I'm literally passing Linganore every day. So I know the distance it takes, and I feel like, I personally have hit a deer twice since I've moved here in a year, and that's troubling, and I don't drive crazy fast, and I'm just concerned that my children will, because I personally don't even take Old Annapolis and come down that way in the evening when it gets dark because of my concerns. And for my student who wants to be in extracurricular activity, and for them to be driving it just scares me. And I think it should scare a lot of people. I mean, yes, we chose this area, but we didn't realize that we were going to be in those type of patterns in terms of our students driving home from school one day. My other concern is, I think that we should be in our community. I mean, for us, Urbana is our community. We go to the supermarket there. We go to the doctor there. That is where I think a big part of the high school experience is feeling connected to a community. That Linganore is not our community. It's not where we want to be. It's not where the demographics match the community that our students are in. So I feel like those are things that should be taken into consideration, not just the overcrowdingness, since it's not completely a huge difference from going from one location to another. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Juliana Girardi, and then Pam Olajusa.
Good evening. It's my second time to speak to the board. My name is Juliana Girardi, and as few people from this side this evening, I'm from Block 57, the Lansdale community, which is proposed to redistricting from Urbana High School to Linganore High School. I'm concerned about the safety of the bus route and the traveling time. We live in an area where we cannot make a left turn. We don't know how the bus route will be, but if we look at our area, we see two ways to go. One will be safer but longer, and the other one would not be safer but just save a few minutes. The traveling time will be about double going to Urbana High School compared to Linganore High School. But most importantly, as a parent, the most important decision we can make regarding our kids' education. My husband and I chose this house based on the school assigned to that location. The only control we have regarding the school our children will attend is by selecting a home that is within the boundaries of the school we have chosen. My family moved into the new house in December 2018, and our excitement about the new place soon turned into anxiety 3 weeks later when the redistricting study was announced, and we realized we had no longer control on choices of which school our daughters will attend. I do recognize this area is subject to big challenges in terms of school enrollment and capacity. However, this should not be a burden of the community, neither old nor new residents. When new developments are approved, the infrastructure needed in terms of road and school should also be approved and developed to support the new developments. This area has a history of redistricting because of the new developments attracting many families from neighboring counties and states. As a result, there is a friction between new and old communities. During this redistricting study, children in school have been asked questions and had to endure comments from neighbor communities trying to influence the Board of Education on their favor. Lansdale has been called a transient community of townhomes, just to name one, that should be preferred to be redistricted even for elementary and middle school. I sympathize with every single family that is impacted and has my same feelings. I urge the community to stay engaged and unite so that the practice of redistricting doesn't become the norm. I've been engaged since the beginning, and I asked questions regarding possibility to expand capacity at Urbana High School with portable classroom and any other possible solution that could be found. But I didn't have any answer. I wasn't given any answer. If redistricting is necessary, this should impact future residents, and we should have the choice to stay within our feeder pattern that we chose when we selected our property.
Thank you. Next up is Pam, and then Amit Kumar.
My name is Pam. I am the mother of a senior at Linganore High School who is obviously not affected by this, and a 7th grader at Windsor Knolls Middle who would be affected by transferring to Newmarket Middle if the current plan passes. I live in Planning Block 59 on Timber Run Court, a neighborhood with only 17 homes in the recently included small cutout with the Lee Hill and West Oakfields neighborhoods. We are all older, established areas, and we as a community fought long and hard to control our area from unnecessary overgrowth, and recently the only large multi-acre parcel of land which we fought against becoming new homes was purchased by Frederick Soccer, as already mentioned tonight. Thus will be a community sports resource and not an increase in homeowners or population growth. In every meeting minutes I've reviewed thus far, I did not see evidence of justification for why our little area was suddenly cut out and added at the 11th hour to be redistricted, when we were not included in any of the previous redistricting plan maps. This seems a bit dishonest, as we have not been afforded the respect of adequate time to review and present our facts and figures over many months, as those who were included in the redistricting areas from the much earlier dates. Also, our responses to questionnaires early on, when we were not included, obviously do not reflect our current views. Studies show how difficult the middle school years are, thus having our 7th graders move to a new school for 8th grade would be very difficult. I myself was forced to move to a new school between 7th and 8th grade, and it did negatively affect my grades and me as a person. If this current plan is in fact approved, I would request that all 7th graders be able to complete 8th grade at their current school as part of the phase-in, which is mentioned in the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Emmett Kumar, and then Viviana Leoning. Emmett? Mr. Kumar? Is he here? Amit Kumar. Okay, then we'll move on to Viviana Leoning.
Good evening, members of the board. First, thank you for being here and for going through all this process with us. My name is Viviana Leoning, and I live in Lake Lincoln community. I have 2 children in FCPS, one that attends Deer Crossing Elementary, 5th grade, and will be going next year to OMS, and the other one that attends OMS in 8th grade and will be going to high school next year. I'm here to speak in support of the superintendent's recommendation as it pertains to the Oakdale feeder, and the reasons are as follows. First and foremost, thank you for listening to our community's concerns throughout the process. The superintendent's recommendation has incorporated our community's suggestions and taken into account our concerns about the previous redistricting options from June and our children's best interest during all the phases of the redistricting process. It is unfortunate that FCPS is in the position of having to make these difficult decisions because previous politicians allowed the explosion of growth that Frederick County is experiencing now without putting the infrastructure in place in order to support it. Longtime residents of older neighborhoods understand this and hope for your understanding and consideration as well. Please consider moving residents of newer and not yet built areas before those of established, fully built neighborhoods. Don't put the interests of developers before our children. Our village in Lake Linganore, consisting of 3 small planning blocks, was slated to be redistricted in one of the previous 2 options. We applaud the superintendent, FCPS employees, the Board of Education, Cropper GIS, and others who understood the many concerns we have and listened to our ideas for alternatives. This included sending the not yet built development of Hamptons West to Newmarket Middle School and Linganore High School, but keeping our older established neighborhoods in Oakdale Middle School and Oakdale High School with the rest of our tight-knit Lake Linganore community. We support Dr. Alban's recommendation for redistricting as it pertains to the Oakdale feeder pattern and hope whatever changes are made will leave existing Lake Linganore neighborhoods intact and continue to attend Oakdale Middle School and Oakdale High School. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Desiree Thompson. And then Cameron Lesser. Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thank you
Good
for
evening.
allowing us all to speak our minds about this redistricting. I live on Westwood Drive. It's a very small community of less than 20 houses. We have less than 10 students currently enrolled at FCPS. We are being redistricted from the Newmarket Middle Linganore district into Oakdale Middle and High School. My oldest daughter is in 7th grade at NMMS, and in the past she's had trouble making friends. We moved here 2 years ago from Montgomery County, and I was very concerned that she wouldn't be able to make friends, but she's just blossomed socially at Newmarket. We're one of the few neighborhoods that's being moved from Newmarket to Oakdale, so she's going to have to say goodbye to all of her friends. And it makes no sense because Oakdale Middle is severely overcrowded. It doesn't make sense to send more students to an already overcrowded middle school. My other two kids are at Liberty Elementary. They both have IEPs. My son moved from a school in Silver Spring to here, and when we moved, he kind of regressed in his education a little bit, and I'm very concerned that if he moves to another elementary school, it's going to happen again. The administrators and the teachers at Liberty have been working with my kids for the last 2 years. They know my kids, they know their needs, and sending them to a new school will mean new teachers that don't know them, and there's going to be a learning curve there. And with that, on top of my son possibly having a regression, I think it's just kind of a disaster. I would like to echo my support of combining Planning Block 177 with 183. It would keep our neighborhood in the current feeder pattern, and it wouldn't have a negative impact on the current population of either school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Cameron Lesser, and then Chanel Holland.
Hello, my name is Cameron Lesser. I live on Westwood Drive, and I'm currently a 7th grade student at Newmarket Middle School getting redistricted to Oakdale Middle School. I would like to share my opinion on the redistricting study. I prefer to stay at Newmarket Middle, and here's my reasoning. First and foremost, NMMS has been rated above average quality-wise in comparison to other schools in Maryland, with its students performing above average on state tests, making above average academic improvement year after year. But there are many people who just overlook these facts and see no use to this. But myself, I have been in NMMS for a year, and I will say what these facts state are extremely true. The academic program there is amazing. The teachers take inappropriate actions very seriously. They are good with their students, and they teach us valuable things. The students are indescribably kind, loving, and caring towards one another. I've seen it firsthand. I've been there, done that. But overall, I love that school. I strongly appreciate the teachers, and I love my friends unconditionally. I don't know what I'd do without that school. I will say that in 5th grade, I suffered from anxiety and depression, and it was hard for me to make friends. But now I don't, because the students and teachers last year in 6th grade treated me so well and nicely and appreciated my being there, and it upsets me so much to have to leave them and have to go through all of that depression and anxiety feeling all over again. I have come home days and days crying in 5th grade and in elementary school from being bullied. Last year, I wasn't bullied. I would come home with a huge smile on my face, and instead of tears of sadness, it'd be tears of joy. So I would greatly appreciate and honor it if you would take into consideration changing your minds about this and thinking about how it will affect a lot of these schools, the students, and the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Chanel, and then Pamela. And I'm not going to try and do the last name because Pamela's next.
Good evening. My name is Chanel Helper Holland. And first, I want to thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to speak, unlike several other counties in this state, which you'll kind of hear in my story. My parents grew up in the same New Jersey township that had a handful of K through 8 and one high school. They grew up with the same people that 50 years later they are still friends with. Many of them took on their parents' homes or bought within the town that even for me, although I never went to school there, still feels like home when I visit. On the other hand, I attended 6 schools from kindergarten through the 12th grade, with the last move being a state change after completing all 3 years at one middle school. I have one friendship that I have maintained since the 7th grade. We both coincidentally settled in Maryland after college, and even purchased homes 10 minutes away from each other, all coincidence. While it surely taught me resilience, I always envied my parents' friendships / extended families because I never had that. This is what happens when children are shuffled from school to school, whether it be once every year or every few years. I purchased my first home in Howard County because it's the #1 school district in the state. And it is important to me, it was important that my daughter receive the best education I could provide her. Howard County has been through and continues to go through several redistricting exercises due to growth. It impacted our smaller neighborhood 3 times in the 8 years that we lived there. Right before she started kindergarten, it impacted the middle schoolers a couple years later, and it would have impacted her prior to starting the 5th grade. The only exciting part of it for her was she was going to be able to go to a brand new state-of-the-art elementary school. Had we stayed, it would have happened at least one more time while she was in high school because construction of a new one was approved up our street. However, through a job change from Baltimore to Clarksburg and a growing family, it was time to upgrade. When the house hunt began, there were 4 things we looked at: quality of education, job commute, neighborhood, and affordability. We are a blended family and have 6 children together, with half not in school yet. So needless to say, that requires a fairly large home. With all the new construction happening, we had many options, but again, quality of education was #1. When we visited the Lansdale community, we immediately fell in love with it. It checked off all 4 things we were looking for. There were certainly more affordable, beautiful neighborhoods within this county we could have chosen to build in. But what won this neighborhood over was the Green Valley, Windsor Knoll, Urbana feeder pattern. It made a good justification over remaining in Howard County and just moving further west, closer to Clarksburg. I'm not attempting to speak on for all Lansdale residents. However, for our family, I was hoping we would be able to move into a community that would allow for a top education, my children not be shuffled from school to school, and have the opportunity to make those lifelong friendships I've always wished I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is Pamela. And then Lisa. I'm sorry, next up is Lisa, and then Lauren Venedam.
Good evening. I am a mother and a wife of 3 kids, I have twins that are 16. This is one twin, that's another twin, they're typical twins. And I have a 15-year-old. I've lived in Frederick County for about 4 years. I moved from Montgomery County to Lansdale. And I chose Lansdale because of the school district. We were living in Clarksburg, and they were going to middle school in Clarksburg. And I chose Lansdale because I looked at the schools and I thought Urbana was a good school. It had a great education, diversity, and everything checked off my list, so I chose Lansdale. So they went to Windsor Knolls. They've done 3 years. This is their 3rd year in Urbana. And I'm very concerned about the assignment of sending them in their senior year to Linganore. I know there's talk about having them complete, but I would like it to be affirmed that they will complete their senior year in Urbana next year for the 2021 school year. As all the parents have said, we're concerned about the distance from Lansdale to Linganore in terms of its 7.3 miles as opposed to Urbana, which is 4 miles. Just also the friendship and the trust they have in their counselors and their educators. It's something I think you should consider as opposed to making a decision about numbers and moving them, especially in their senior year. So I'm definitely advocating for Lansdale to stick with Urbana High School, but I'm very concerned about their senior year being moved over to Linganore. And they wanted to just share a few thoughts they have themselves.
And if you could give your name, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Liza Garangumba. I'm a junior at Urbana High School. I've been attending Urbana for the last 3 years. My grades have surfaced a 3.75 GPA almost every single quarter since freshman year. I am associated in many clubs, including BSA, Black Student Association Club, FCA, Fellow Christian Athletes, and many more. I've done cheerleading and track and field since freshman year and continue to do so. I'm a varsity athlete at Urbana High School. The school environment has personally made me feel welcome and belonged, and still makes me feel that way till today. And to be fair, we can all say that more diversity lies in Urbana than Linganore. I couldn't imagine going to another school or graduating at another school. Imagine us graduating at a different school than we have for the past 3 years, graduating with a class we have never been with. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Lauren. Or would you like to say something?
Yes, please, if that's okay.
Okay, if you could just give your name and...
Hi, I'm Levi Gangumba. I'm her twin. I go to Urbana. Like she said, I play sports. I'm a varsity athlete. I run track at Urbana. My grades they're fine, I guess. What's it called? I like Urbana because I started a lot of things there. Like this year, the teachers are very nice. They like to help a lot of us. Like this year, a teacher helped me and my friends start a Bible study at our school. We're starting this year. I do FCA. I'm a leader in that. As y'all know, Urbana is superb in the academics. Teachers are very nice and helpful. It probably is the best school in Frederick County for academics, and it's one of the best in the state. Like this year, we were nominated as a Blue Ribbon School. I'm pretty sure I saw Mrs. Alvin there. She was
Not
there.
nominated, they won.
Oh, they won, my bad. But yeah, like just the whole community around us, like our Lansdale community, we're all Urbana. Like we just go to Urbana events and stuff like that. Like I see a lot of them at Urbana football games. It's like it'll be a weird transition. And like also, like diversity at Urbana, everyone just welcoming. Like no offense, Linganore isn't the best like diverse. Oh, if you go online, it's like ... There's no really like, so like. It's just like hard to get transition. Like I went to Winter Knolls, and over there, it's not a big diverse. Like when I went to Urbana, everyone was just welcoming. That's what I like.
Thank you. Next up is Lauren, and then Neil Burns. If you, in the center of the stand there, you unscrew that and you can pull it up. It should go counterclockwise. There you go.
Hi, my name is Lauren Venetum, mom of 2 kids in FCPS. I am highly concerned about the proposed recommendation that West Winds Planning Block 146, an established community, be rerouted from New Market Elementary School to the new school Blue Heron, given that this goes against 3 official criteria that were set forth. 1, proximity to schools. And this is a new development since the superintendent's recommendation has been released. It was just announced that the Gas House Bridge project was delayed. All the bids were rejected. This means a huge delay in the Gas House Bridge project, and that's how West Winds would get to the new school, Blue Heron. So now the only way, and now they would coincide the start of the new school and the redistricting with the bridge closure, and there's a major flood zone right in the middle, and that's why the bridge project was proposed. So West Winds would need to go a really roundabout way, perhaps past a New Market Elementary School, where they are now, and Deer Crossing, just to get to Blue Heron. It just doesn't make any sense. It would be a huge roundabout way, whichever roundabout way you want to go. Second, with established feeder patterns, West Winds is the only currently built neighborhood in Lake Linganore going to New Market Middle School and Linganore High School. It doesn't make sense to take elementary schoolers away from New Market Elementary and reroute them to a different elementary while keeping the middle and high school the same. My daughter, Nadia, is in 2nd grade at New Market Elementary School. All her friends are in communities like the Orchard, New Market West, that will still be staying at New Market Elementary School. And there are no other 2nd grade girls that we know of in West Winds. So she doesn't have any friends. She'll be ripped away from every single one of her friends. When she's 2nd grade now, it'll be 4th grade. She'll go and have to make friends at a new school of Blue Heron, and then be ripped away from all those friends that she's making to go back into the New Market Middle School and Linganore feeder. And the only other community that would be coming would be the new houses that haven't even been built yet, and there could always be delays there. So she's just ripped away, first from New Market to Blue Heron, and then Blue Heron back to New Market Middle, where all of her friends have probably moved on by that time. If you're going to really take us out of that New Market feeder pattern, then I would just rather we stay to Oakdale Middle and Oakdale High School. I mean, we would be shifted to Oakdale Middle and High School. And impact on neighbors and communities. West Winds was separated from Linganore schools a long time ago in previous redistricting. Now we've forged a very strong identity with the Newmarket community. Our moms group is zoned to group West Winds with the other Newmarket elementary school communities like Newmarket West and the Orchard. Our Girl Scout troop, the same thing. Our identity is with Newmarket, so please don't rip us away from there. Just again, this is, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Neil Burns is up next.
Hi, my name is Neil Burns. I live in the West Oakfields neighborhood off of Bartholow's Road, planning block 189. We've lived there for about 17 years. Our daughter is a 7th grader at Windsor Knolls Middle School. We are part of the block that's below Route 70 that's slated to change from Windsor Knolls to Newmarket Middle School. As a lot of my neighbors had mentioned, we were kind of surprised a few weeks ago when we received the email to learn that we were now part of the communities that would be moving middle schools. Previous 5 proposals did not have us changing middle schools. When I went to look into it, my first thought when I looked at the map, I was drawn to this orange section here and thought, boy, that looks kind of funny that it sticks out. It's the only section on the map that kind of sticks out from other sections. And then I realized that we were actually in that area. We want to speak about our community. We have always felt part of the Windsor Knolls community. We belong to the Windsor Knolls pool. We have attended birthday parties and Girl Scouts with, my daughter has, with friends, other friends in the Windsor Knolls community, all the way down to Route 80, which we're connected to. But that part is not slated to change middle schools. My daughter actually, even in 2nd grade, participated in the Annie play at Windsor Knolls Middle School. So we've been kind of gearing up to attend Windsor Knolls for a long time. If we were part of the final proposal or final implementation to be redistricted to Newmarket Middle School, I believe it would kind of isolate our community. We would be the only community south of Route 70 that would be slated to go to Newmarket Middle School. And even the topography of the area makes us look isolated. The way we would get to Windsor Knolls Middle School, as well as the Windsor Knolls School District, is Bartholow's Road, which crosses Route 70. And if any of you have gone from Mount Airy to Newmarket, the Windsor Knolls, or the Bartholow's Road Bridge is a really high bridge. As a matter of fact, when my wife and I used to take vacations to Deep Creek Lake long before we moved to this area, I used to comment at how high of a bridge it is. It's that high because it crosses a deep gorge that separates our community from the other Windsor Knolls, or the other Newmarket communities. Route 70, as our neighbors had mentioned, Route 70 seems to be a natural demarcation point for the students going to Windsor Knolls as Newmarket. Was that, I have hard hearing, was that my time?
It was. If
Okay,
you
I
have
apologize.
a few extra comments you want to finish up, go ahead.
Okay. Real quickly, there seems to be capacity at Windsor Knolls. It's only slated to be 70%. Our area is 67 students, which could be accommodated at Windsor Knolls. And if you do make the decision, I ask that we still have the option to send our daughter to Windsor Knolls for 8th grade. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Anna Ruda Jordar.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for giving us this opportunity to raise our concern here. So I'm very new to here, like in this Maryland itself, and I was going through this all the YouTube videos and the last session and all the posts from the different forums, and I really respect everybody's concern that they are raising it. That's really valid. Like they have the communities, they have the students are having this, like friends, they're losing friends. So many things are there, even safety. the thing I came up with, only one thing I don't understand when I look into this redistricting process, the distance of the school. I think today also a couple of members raised the same concern. Moving, I actually come from the Lansdale community. So when I see this, changing high school from Urbana to Linganore High School, I see the distance change drastically, 3.5 miles to 7.5, even more than double, which increased a travel time based on the situation of the weather and all these things, maybe an hour a day. So time is very crucial for everybody's life. So cutting down 1 hour for travel, because of the travel, they have to manage to cope up with that timing, cut down from some other activities, either from their playtime or after-school activities or their sleep time, whatever it is. Everybody's having their plan, having their goal, all families, all kids. So we also plan for the same thing. Now, if I consider my family, I believe every family is having their own goal, and they work very hard to go towards the success of this goal. And then they take a decision, and that's what I also took. Then I decided to move on to this, a Lansdale community. I came from this Connecticut. I just moved 2 months here. So I did a big research before I moved. Then I moved to Lansdale, and then I slowly came to know that this is happening. So that gives me I feel like that the decision that we took, the calculations and all the things that we consider to make our family, my kids' success, somehow I see that this thing is coming I didn't do the right thing. So missing time, managing those time, always helps our kids to move towards the success. But time is so crucial everybody's life. I believe everybody wish that every day they say, hey, if I wish that I have 40 hours a day, so I could have done better. So I am here to request one thing, change will happen. This thing will come with the growing communities and all these things. That will definitely it will happen. We have to accept that. But I would say instead of changing drastically this distance, make it shorter. If you can make it a plus minus 1.5 miles or 2 miles, that is acceptable. But going a double and more than double, that which is more than an hour per day to use only for traveling, that really affects the kids. So our goal, I would like to request, help our kids to move towards the success, but not towards the failure. That's my request.
Thank you. That was the last speaker that I had on my sign-up list. Is there anybody that I didn't call or that isn't on the list that would like to make public comment? If you are, if you could please come to the microphone, make sure and state your name. You can come first, and then you can come down second here at this one.
Hi, my name's Amari Varfley.
If you could step just a little closer, there you go.
Hi, my name's Amari Varfley. I am currently a freshman at Urbana High School. I'm on the field hockey team. I already invested my time into that school, and I'm going to be redistricted 1 year later to Linganore, who also is a rival school, just going to say that. I feel because if you put in time into a sport or extracurricular or a play, if you put into that time into that school, you should get a waiver or something to stay at that school. Because a high school is a community, and that's what we are based around. Because Urbana is one. In my 11th grade year, I'm thinking of going into the IB program. So that means I'm going to be going to Linganore for 1 year and then have to move back to Urbana just to go into the IB. And I would have to provide my own transportation, which is that it's kind of rough for me and my mom, who's a single mother. And with the overcrowding, it makes more sense to just expand the schools, like work upon the schools that are there, than redistrict, because like all what they're saying, the development is gonna come no matter what. So it's gonna be another redistricting, another whole process. If we increase, like, put in more classrooms, like a movable classroom or so, or at either schools, there's more capacity for students and more capacity to learn. And I have moved from 7 schools that I've counted. I know the toll that it takes on a person when you have to move to a new school, totally new, and it's, wow. Like, you don't know nobody, you're like all alone, and I'm not the best at making friends. Like, if I made a friend, it's probably I fell into my life or something, and that's just hard. And like, I've always been on top of my grades, but I see that if someone like who isn't me could easily fall. And I know Lansdale isn't, can I continue a little? I know Lansdale isn't an established neighborhood, and I'm not dissing any established neighborhoods right now, but I know it's not an established neighborhood, but I moved into that neighborhood thinking I'm going to go to Urbana. I moved not knowing what Linganore was. I moved only for Urbana because it's a better school for my choice because of the diversity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heba Hassanin.
Good evening.
I have been advocating on the issue of overcrowding in the schools for several years now, and I want to first publicly commend the staff, particularly Beth Passerb, who, in my experience and my advocacy over the last several years, has always been extremely forthcoming with information, extremely professional, and just a wonderful person to deal with. And I single her out, but I really say the same thing about all the staff that I've ever dealt with at FCPS on this issue. So I just wanted to take a moment to publicly acknowledge them.
Thank you.
I think my comments have to do basically with, the issue of balancing the utilization rates at these schools within the study area. And on the elementary level, I think the superintendent's recommendation does a pretty good job. That job is, of course, made easier by the fact that there are 2 elementary schools that are adding 1,500 seats approximately. I'm deeply concerned, however, still about the middle and high schools. We have 5 middle schools in this study area, and on paper, the balancing seems a little off because the 2 most overcrowded schools in the study area, Urbana and Oakdale, see almost no relief. Their boundaries are virtually unchanged. I understand the reasons why, and a lot of them make sense to me. However, I'm concerned that the superintendent's recommendation includes and utilizes the enrollment rates as of September 30th, 2018, and that we need to use the best data available. And the enrollment data that will come out at the end of this month, very soon, needs to be the data that's included in the recommendation report and the one that you're making your decision based on. Just informally, at Oakdale Middle, in the superintendent's recommendation, the forecasted enrollment in 2020 for Oakdale Middle is 830 students. Today, right now, if you call the school, they have 868. That was a projection from a year from now, and we're already above it. The tables, the projection tables, look really good in the superintendent's report to a certain extent. But I'm concerned that, while I understand they have assumptions and the math is the math, we need to be checking that math against the most available data that we have now. And you need to be making your decisions based on that information, even if the paper looks, you know, like there's not a problem. And I'm sorry, just one last thing. The state-rated capacities. I think the community may not be sensitive to the fact that when the state-rated capacities changed, you know, Urbana High School got 200 more seats. That is on one level awesome. We found capacity, 200 seats, without moving a single kid or spending a dime. But if you talk to people who've been in Urbana, it still feels kind of overcrowded. So how are we really using that program space? Is the community a part of that process? How can we make sure that those SRCs, that you're using your formulas and saying, no, we're not going to be super overcrowded because we increased our capacity and only need to move X number of students? How are we really making sure that that's reflected in reality? One last thing, just let the kids who are, please grandfather the 5th and 8th graders and all of the high school students. You've already recommended the sophomores and the juniors. My kids aren't personally affected, but I don't think it's a big deal to grandfather the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and the 5th and 8th graders. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last chance. Well, I would like to thank everybody that's come out this evening. I do want to echo the comments and thank our staff. I think our staff has done an outstanding job of going through this process and trying to listen. It's a very, very tough exercise, as you've heard from differing views that were in here this evening, even within the same areas. Not everybody is going to feel exactly the same way. Tomorrow night, we're having our board meeting, and part of what we will do is hear a lot of the answers to the questions that have been asked here this evening, the last two hearings that we had at Urbana and Linganore, and those that we've received via email or delivered to the central office. So we're going to hear a lot about the various comments that have been brought up, or various proposals that have been brought up. We'll get that data and talk about it. Again, the decision won't be made until our October meeting, so we certainly will have time still between even our discussions tomorrow night and when that vote is taken to take a look at things and listen to the public. So we do thank everybody for coming out and being engaged in this process. Again, our goal is to do what's best. I heard a lot of comments this evening about capacity, putting additions on schools. Unfortunately, the schools that we have now, high schools, aren't built to put additions on them. Most folks know and can see in the distant future we're going to need another high school on this side of the county, and probably even more middle and elementary capacity. Unfortunately, our process is to let the county know what our needs are. We don't have funding authority, so it's our county and state that do that. Our long-range goal is to continue to stay on top of the growth and provide seats. The other comments that were made about some of our older buildings, Green Valley being one of those, we have throughout our county quite a number of buildings that are in excess of 30 and 40 years old that need renovations that are not even in that 10, 15-year radar screen. So as a county, we need to continue to work towards making sure we have the capacity that's needed for our new students that are coming, but we also have to make sure that we modernize and update our older buildings, and that's a tough act that we're trying to do. We have a lot of projects coming up in the next couple of years, and certainly we'll continue to advocate for the space needs. We continue to look at that, and we thank you for bringing those points up this evening. Again, I think a few of us will hang around if anybody had any additional questions after the meeting you would like to ask us. Again, if you forget about something and want to email us, please email us. We'll make sure if you have questions or comments that they're shared with the staff and board. Thank everybody and have a good evening.